Although it's almost been around for 30 years, healthcare organizations have always had a hard time satisfying all of HIPAA's requirements. We saw 29 million healthcare records breached in 2020 alone. And just one of those breaches from that year affected 10 million records alone. First and foremost, it's a complicated law. Just to give you an example, AAPC, Physician Services Complaint and Profitable Practices, created a checklist for the HIPAA Security and HITECH rules, and it's 19 pages in length. Second, less than half of healthcare organizations use a learning management system, or LMS, to train their employees. In other words, they're relying on an outdated and oftentimes boring training experience. Thus, setting up an annual in-person training session in an attempt to cover your bases isn't enough. You need to ensure that the material that you're covering isn't boring. In other words, you can't create a poorly designed PowerPoint presentation, cover each topic in a monotone voice, and expect your employees to stay engaged. Instead, you need to create training material that's engaging while using active learning techniques. Using the word engaging with the phrase active learning is a little redundant. In a nutshell, active learning techniques involve engaging students in their coursework through discussions, problem solving, case study, role plays, and other methods. Of course, saying active learning techniques are important is one thing, but implementing it into your HIPAA training course is another. Hi everyone, I'm Matt from HITACtics, and today I'm going to explain what an active learning HIPAA quiz for your employees looks like. Before we get started though, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the button below. While you're down there, hit that alert bell icon next to it as well, so when we post new helpful content, you get notified. The first type of questions you need to include in your active learning HIPAA quiz for your employees is problem-solving questions. Problem-solving questions are one of the most basic types of questions out there, and our teachers pummeled us with it throughout our grade school years. Now, I'm not trying to say that that was a bad thing. Problem-solving questions are a vital part of childhood development. They helped us learn how to identify problems, brainstorm solutions, test appropriate solutions, and analyze the results. No, I'm not inferring that these HIPAA-related questions are easy by breaking down how important their type was to our development. Instead, I'm trying to point out their importance. If problem-solving questions are such a vital part of education, it means they're effective in teaching concepts. In other words, you need to pose this type of question to your employees. Here's an example. Your best friend works at a hospital. One day she comes home and says, "You'll never guess who came to the emergency room for surgery today. It's the starting quarterback for your favorite football team." Your friend is clearly excited about the detailed gossip she's about to tell you. Is she committing a HIPAA violation in this case? Why or why not? The second type of question you need to include in your active learning HIPAA quiz for your employees is case study questions. Now, there are two main types of training, deductive and inductive. Deductive teaching is a more teacher-centered approach where they explain new concepts and expect the students to practice using them. Inductive teaching is a more student-centric approach where the teacher presents examples showing instances reflected in the real world so that the student notices how the concept works. To put it more simply, inductive teaching is learning by doing. Now, the point I'm trying to make with all of this is that most people learn better through inductive concepts. Thus, including questions in your HIPAA quiz that incorporate real-world examples of violations is a must. Here's an example of a case study question. In 2019, the Office of Civil Rights, or OCR, started the HIPAA Right of Access initiative. Since it started, the OCR has been cracking down on organizations that don't provide individuals with access to their medical records in a timely period. What kind of message does this send to covered entities about the importance of HIPAA compliance? The final type of question you need to include in your active learning HIPAA quiz for your employees is role-play questions. If incorporating case study questions into the test you distribute to your employees provides them the opportunity to notice what you're trying to teach them, role-play questions gives them a way to apply actual concepts. Harvard pins role-play as one of the best tools suited for modern college students over traditional methods. To be more specific, role-play helps students apply their knowledge to a problem, reflect on issues and views of others, illustrate theoretical ideas by placing them in the real-world context, and helps illustrate what goes into decision-making. An example role-play HIPAA question is, you're an office administrator at a healthcare practice and you receive a phone call. The person on the other end of the line tells you that they need the medical records for one of the patients that you saw recently. What should you do in this instance before you send anything in order to protect the patient that they're talking about? Whether you're a covered entity or a business associate, it's a requirement to train your employees on HIPAA. It's a best practice to satisfy that requirement on an annual basis, regardless of how long a member has been a part of your team as well. In other words, odds are that you already have a HIPAA training program in place. However, if your training program isn't constructed using effective teaching concepts, you're not any better off than the organizations that don't train their employees at all. One of the most effective ways to understand where your risks are within your organization is by testing your employees' knowledge on HIPAA. Thus, you need to construct a quiz that reinforces what you're training them on. If you'd like to learn more about HIPAA training for your employees, reach out to HITECH. And you already made it this far into the video, so you might as well like it, share it, and comment below. Well, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to our YouTube channel.